Hey guys, just want to give you a quick overview of the Statera portfolio options. And so looking at the ecosystem, there's really three main options for your portfolio. There are many more, but we're just going to focus on the top three. And so looking at the different options, number one is the Statera token, and this benefits from the price action of the entire ecosystem. So if any of the products go up in price, then Statera token will go up in price. It's also deflationary, so it's where the deflation happens. Anytime it is transferred in any way, deflation happens. Next is the Delta token, and this has half Statera and half Ether in it. So both of these get wrapped into a Delta token, and this is so that deflation can happen safely on any platform. So we can't put Statera into Balancer because it doesn't properly handle deflationary tokens, but putting Delta token in is secure, and every time you create or uncreate mint or unmint Delta, you create deflation. When you use Statera to make a Delta token or unmint a Delta token into Statera, you create deflation. So deflation still ripples through the ecosystem. So looking at Delta token pool, you will earn 38% APY conservatively, and we'll go over that later, but that's a very conservative number, and you will be paid in Ether and Statera. So you actually get paid in the tokens that you have in the liquidity pool, but you don't get paid them to your wallet. So for an example, if you have one share or one Delta token and the pool is $100, let's say that one share is worth $1. Then as people are trading Statera and trading Ether, they pay 0.03% of every trade to you as a liquidity provider. So they're paying you the fees. And let's say that there was $100 in fees that the pool earned. So now your one share is worth $2. So the pool itself goes up in value, which makes your share worth more. You could sell half of your share, 0.5 of your share, to get that $1 fees out. So you could be pulling out the fees as you get them if you want it to, or you can keep them in there and let them compound so that you can get that 38% APY by letting the interest compound. Once you have that Delta token, you can put it into Phoenix Fund. So this Delta token still gets you 38% APY. You still get that return from the Uniswap liquidity pool, but you also get the Phoenix Fund APY, which will be about 30%, and you'll get paid in Link, Ether, SNX, and BTC, and Delta token. And this will be about 30%. Is the same idea where the pool is getting more valuable and your share is getting more valuable. It doesn't airdrop you each of these tokens. You will get airdropped BAL tokens, Balancer tokens, once a week, and those will be about 12% to 36%, all the way up to 50%, 100%. It all depends on what BAL value goes to during the year and beyond. This is assuming that it stays at about $10 and you reinvest it, stays at about $30 and you reinvest it. So you're taking the BAL tokens and buying more Phoenix Fund with them by buying Ether and then doing a single asset pool into Phoenix. And so with the Phoenix Fund, you're making these three different fees and they're all on top of each other, which is nice. That being said, Delta token does make really high returns, and so we'll look at the difference between these two later. It's not as easy to say Phoenix will always be the best of the options. If you're trying to diversify and have as many different cryptos as possible, Phoenix will be the best option, and so will the other community pools that have a bunch of different token options in them. So looking at what a liquidity pool does, a liquidity pool keeps all the assets in balance. So here we have 50% Statera, 50% Ether, $200 of Ether, $200 of Statera. They're perfectly balanced. If Statera went half price, if it went 50% down in price to 1 penny, then the overall value of the pool, this $200 would go down to $100. It would go in half. So 100 plus 200 is $300 for the pool. So it would balance out to 150 and 150. So it would sell $50 of Ether to buy $50 of Statera, making it 150 and 150. So it sold the Ether that had held its value and bought the Statera, which had become cheaper. So it's buying low and selling high. If Statera went up in value, let's say it's 5x'd, so the $200 became $1,000. The whole pool is now $1,200. To balance that out, it would be 600 and 600. So 3 Ethereum at $200, 600 STA at 10 cents. And again, it sold some of your STA. It sold 400 of your STA to buy 2 more Ethereum. So it's keeping it balanced 50-50 no matter what the prices are doing. It's always going to keep the two balanced. So you're always selling high and buying low, which is great for investments, and why index funds and funds in general are popular, because because you're constantly buying low and selling high. And always, if Bitcoin were to skyrocket in value and double, you would buy Link and SNX and Ether and Delta because they are staying low in value, and then hope they go up later. So holding the quality of all these equal, it's always best to be buying low and selling high. Next, looking at going deeper into the ecosystem, if you want to donate to Statera, it is a community-driven project, completely decentralized. If you want them to do more marketing, to be on more exchanges, and to do these things quicker, please do donate to their donation fund. It's completely a decentralized project. There is no central office. There is no rich leader of the whole thing. It is all based on the community. So please do donate to help the ecosystem move forward. To read all the documents, go to bit.ly STA docs. The white paper plus frequently asked questions and infographics are there. bit.ly/STA vids are videos like this. bit.ly/STA profit will give you calculations of the profits on these 3 portfolio options. So again, we have Statera token, Delta token 50/50, and Phoenix Fund, a diversified fund of a bunch of crypto. So going to bit.ly/STA profits, it takes you to the profit calculator. You can read all this if you want, but the long and the short is to make a copy. And once you have the copy, put numbers into the yellow cells on each of the tabs. For this, this has data from July 13th, which was a pretty normal day. So you can kind of see what the normal APY is. Very strong, obviously. But if you want to look at the current APY and look at any day's APY, historical or not, looking at the volume, we have about 1 million in volume, which is really strong volume. That's some of the strongest volume we've seen the entire existence of Statera. And the liquidity, you actually want to look down here. This is the liquidity without some Ether in it. It's not quite perfect math. Honestly, I'm not sure how Uniswap does this, but the bigger number is the one you want to go with. So 389,000 in liquidity. And then we have 1 million in volume. So you're looking at 1,500% APY for the year, 0.7 for the day, 25% for the month. So as you can see, really strong APY. Obviously today was a really strong day, but looking historically at some low days, let's take the lowest day we can find, 20,000 on July 14th. And on July 14th, the liquidity was 115. So 115 and then 20. You're still hitting 20% APY, which is strong in the DeFi space and especially strong in the traditional finance space. So still a strong APY, and that is literally the lowest day that you can find. Some of these might be lower, but this is right at the start. But the average is more like 100,000 if you're looking at these. And actually the average is probably a little higher than 100,000, but let's take 100,000 for conservative. And then looking at liquidity, it's about 50 to 100,000. So just to be extremely conservative, let's say 100,000 and 100,000. And looking at that return, you're looking at 200%. So if you have an average day with average liquidity, you're going to be doing about 200% APY. So again, super strong numbers, but just going back to today's numbers, to keep it to today, looking at Phoenix, and today is July 23rd, just so you know. The liquidity on Balancer is same as Uniswap. Just take the Balancer liquidity and the Balancer volume. So 61,000 in volume on the Balancer pool, and the liquidity is at 163,000. And so you're looking at about 300% APY. It averages it out. So the delta you put into Phoenix Fund actually gives you interest, the same interest that you get from Delta in Uniswap. So the two interests combine together. 40% of Phoenix makes this APY, and then 100% of Phoenix makes this APY. So the two are stacked on top of each other, which is kind of the benefit of Phoenix. You can see those two averaged out are about 1,000%. So if you put $1,000 into Phoenix today and it hit this volume every day and hit the volume on Delta every day, you're looking at about 1,000% APY. This is somewhat normal. I think you would probably get down to maybe something like 20,000 for an average day. And let's go back to putting a more average day into Delta, just to give you an idea of what a more. But again, I think this is even low for an average day. But even with that, you're still at 135% APY, looking at pretty conservative average data. Looking at the month of June, you can see the 900% APY and 800% APY, judging by the entire month of June and all of its data. You can see this is kind of a little bit higher here. It's just because it didn't quite get a full month because of the balancer exploit, and so it only had 26 days. But if you work that out to a full month, then you're looking at 900% return. So that's that discrepancy, and seeing 18 be more than 20 being less for the annual, because it's less than a month. Looking at, and we'll try to add in the rest of the months as we get new data. For impermanent loss, this tab will just help you understand what impermanent loss does to your investment. Basically, as the pool rebalances and keeps everything 50-50 between Statera and Ether, some of that supply is lost because of the rebalancing. Honestly, the math is pretty dense to understand that, but all you need to know is that when you get large gains, large price swings, so if we had a 5x price swing, you'd lose 25% in your profits. So if you were holding $1,000 and at 5x, you'd have $5,000, but with impermanent loss, you'd only have $4,000 about. And so looking at what the fees do with that impermanent loss, the gains is $4,000 with the impermanent loss, but in fees you gain $3,471. So by holding it in a pool, even though you had impermanent loss, you still made out better than if you're holding it outside the pool. And this is an average, saying that the price goes up slowly over the year. Worst case scenario is if the price goes up at the very end of the year. So if it was $1,000 the entire year and at the very end it went to $5,000, you would get your APY or your passive income on just $1,000 for most of the year. Here, you're slowly getting your passive income as the price is going up, and so you're getting passive income on $2,000, on $3,000, on $4,000, and so this is kind of like an average score of what you might see, and this is the worst case scenario if it spiked right at the end of the year. So you can see you get less returns than holding it outside of a liquidity pool, but not by much, and this is in a pretty terrible scenario. And then you can do whatever you want here to, let's say, what happens if it goes 50x. And you can see 45,000 with holding a liquidity pool, 50,000 if you hold it outside. So it's better to hold outside if it's going to 50x, and it's a lot better if it 50x's at the very end of the year and you try to sell it right then. You would be hurt pretty badly, but if you held for another year, you might be able to make it up. So if you're holding long term, most likely you'll be able to outdo any impermanent loss unless you see a real large skyrocket, like 50 or 20x. Even at 20x though, you're still making out better with fees, unless it 20x's in 1 week at the end of the year. And so this just helps you to understand impermanent loss and see how much of an effect it has. Overall, you'll see that holding in a pool will outdo holding it outside of a pool. The fees outweigh it. Even if it's a worst case scenario, you can still usually outweigh it. Again, unless you start getting into these really large numbers of like 20x, 50x, 100x. So that's a quick overview of the portfolio options in Statera. Hope it answered most of your questions. Have a great